Hello and welcome to Commodity Champions. I'm Manisha Gupta. Well, the raw sugar prices have cooled off after hitting an 11-year highs in the month of April, even as key sugar producers have cut output estimates. The Indian Sugar Mills Association also lowered its sugar production estimate to 32.8 million tons for the current marketing year, which ends in the month of September. It had earlier projected an output of 34 million tons. So what is it that is impacting the sugar prices and output, and why are experts expecting lower output this marketing season? To discuss this, we are now joined by Aditya Jhunjhunwala. He's president at Indian Sugar Mills Association. Aditya, hi, good to have you on the show. First of all, this constant downward in revision in sugar output, what is your sense on what really could be the final figure?
So as we said in ISMA, the final figure, what we feel is 32.8. And there were two reasons that the yield went down a little bit in the Maharashtra. Though we anticipated the acreage remains the same, but there was some kind of a downtrend on the yield because of the late rains and some kind of a climatic condition.
We do understand that the exports are curbed at 6 million tons. The buffer stock seems quite comfortable right now. What is your sense on the overall availability, where the numbers are more or less calculated, but on the consumption side as well, especially with the summer season coming in? And as soon as that happens, we see a whole array of festivals beginning as well.
So if you see that, ISMA in December requested the government, according to the situation, that in the first tranche there should be an announcement of 6 million tons export, and we'll again review in the end of March for the second tranche. And as per the current condition, everything is at a comfortable situation. The consumers, the farmers and industry, the sugar balance sheet in India looks at a very decent and a normal stage.
Aditya, I was also reading a report from CareEdge Ratings which says that the sugar companies this year may see 8 to 12% increase in revenues for FY23, and that is precisely on the back of ethanol and, of course, the sugar prices rising up as well. How do you look at the overall industry and the kind of capex that we've seen go on in for ethanol capacity increase?
If you see, a lot of companies have put capex on the new revenue stream, that is the ethanol. So new distilleries have been put up, and the expansion on the ethanol supply has taken place. Last year, if you see, and compared this year, there's a big jump. We have diverted 4 million tons of sugar to ethanol. So the total conversion of ethanol is getting better. The total supplies of ethanol is better. And the price in the sugar market also on a reasonable price level, though still below the industry expectation and as compared to the FRP being announced by the government.
It's been quite unfortunate on what we've seen in sense of numbers in Maharashtra and Karnataka, but the UP numbers were on the positive this time around. So what is it that you are getting as a feedback from various mills in these geographies?
So UP, if you see, the rains were in a better state and the temperatures not too much of fluctuation. So the UP had the same kind of estimation that we had. There was only downtrend from Maharashtra and little bit on the Karnataka that we had this year.
Clearly. And, with the kind of weather that we've seen, March being the hottest month in 122 years, the 1st of May clearly was the coldest day perhaps in North India in many, many years. Unseasonal rains just about continue. That is the case with various hailstorms that we are looking at even now as we speak. What is the preparedness of the cane growers, the mills, the various stakeholders? What are you guys really having conversing on?
So we cannot do too much on the weather, but what we are trying to do is more on the irrigation part. So we are trying to do maybe drip irrigation. How do we use the resources better, the water resources to be better? We have taken a study with ISSR Lucknow, and we are trying to figure out how can the farmers and the industry work together to get a better utilization of the resource and some kind of a varieties which can take this resistant varieties, which can take a hit on the weather side. So that is our new goal, how to take it further.
So what conversations have been going on that? I mean, what is investment that you're looking at? Are you talking to state government on that, central government on that? What kind of allocations are you looking at money-wise on that?
So basically, as an industry, we are doing with our own resources and the members are contributing it because that will help the industry and the farmers both.
Talk to us also about the international markets where we have seen the prices go up. But would you say that Indian mills clearly haven't made much use of that? We haven't even seen a trickling impact of that in the Indian markets with the way it is more or less controlled for us.
Yeah, because the timings are different. Because what happens is the price has gone up because there is a delay in the crop coming from Brazil. As we know, India crops come from October to March. That is the peak season that Indian millers exports to the world market. And from Brazil, it comes from May or June. So because of the late rains in Brazil, there has been delay in the output from Brazil crop. And due to some other crops, they cannot be able to dispatches. There is some kind of a port issues in Brazil port that has delayed the dispatches from Brazil. I think that led to some kind of a spot in the market.
Aditya, I have one more question for you. And, in last 1 year, we've seen strong gains come in for the sugar mills, amazing numbers. We've seen most of the stocks also continue to run up. The headline that we have been putting out is sugar in a sweet spot, and so has been the mills too. What is it that you think will work for this industry in the coming 1 year now?
I think the future looks good for the sugar industry. We are in a very balanced situation. The opening stocks are at a reasonable level. The production looks good, but El Nino and other things we need to work upon for the next year. And I think the supportive government policies has also helped the industry to work better in this stage.
Anything that you're asking from the industry, from the government right now?
So what we are asking from the government, two things: little bit increase in the MSP, which we have been demand, because there has been increase in the FRP for the last 4 years and there's no increase in MSP. That is what we have requested. The other thing, now we are discussing about the E100. So now the government has already announced E20 by 2025. So we were thinking now we need to have a second step of getting E100 so that the industry can dispense ethanol directly to the vehicles. And FFEs, hybrid FFEs are the future. That's what we feel now.
All right, so that is how the sugar industry is moving, and those are the requirements or asks clearly from ISMA and the industry coming in from the government there. Aditya, thank you so much for joining us and discussing all of that. We are now joined by Mr. Atul Chaturvedi. He's Executive Chairman of Shree Renuka Sugars. Mr. Chaturvedi, hi, thank you so much for joining CNBC-TV18. I mean, that's a question I would want to put at you too, that even as the global prices are trading at an 11-year highs for raw and a 10-year highs for the white sugar prices, of course, we've seen some profit taking from those kind of levels. Would you say that the Indian markets or Indian mills clearly could not benefit completely with that kind of a run-up?
You're absolutely spot on. In fact, once it was known that the Indian exports will get capped at around 6 or 6.2 million tons, the world market went through the roof. And the international players are the one who are actually, whoever was long on the New York Exchange or on LIFE, they are the ones who are actually laughing all the way to the bank. So as Indians are concerned, I think Indians had done away with all their exports up to March, as Aditya was rightly pointing out, because our maximum exports actually happened by March. And what the trickle-down effect has not really worked in India's favor. The only thing which has worked in India's favor is international prices moving northwards. Our domestic prices have also risen marginally in support. So that is what is coming handy as far as the Indian sugar industry is concerned.
Aditya also spoke about ethanol and the kind of push that the industry is looking at. We do understand that 86% of ethanol still even now comes in from sugar, and it's a very small remaining 14% that comes in from grains. What is your sense as we move ahead from here with the weather and the kind of availability that we are anticipating going forward in case of sugar? How are these targets looking to you?
As far as ethanol is concerned, I think the sugar industry has the ecosystem in place. But grain ethanol, I'm not too sure whether it's going to fly. Because as it is, India is struggling with grain prices, whether it be rice or whether it be wheat. So sugar ethanol will definitely continue to grow. But the only thing is, if sugar prices in the country range between 37 and 38, and the government does not increase the price of ethanol, then you could have a scenario where mills may be slightly more reluctant to divert sugar to ethanol. So it's important that the ethanol issue price or purchase price by the government also needs to be maybe jacked up to take care of, one, the off-season blues, and two, with the rise in the sugar prices as well.
So what would you say to the kind of money that has been already deployed in increasing capacities here? What is it that the industry will now look for?
The industry will definitely continue to make more ethanol for sure. And that's largely because ethanol play helps in the cash flows of the industry, because we must understand that the sugar industry is the one where you crush for 5-6 months in a year, or maybe 4-5 months in a year, and then sell the sugar for the balance 12 to 14 months. Ethanol diversion actually helps the cash flows of the industry. Maybe not in terms of the profitability at these values, because sugar is also reasonably profitable now, but definitely it helps the cash flows of the industry. So I think people will continue, and the sugar industry will continue to give thrust to ethanol for sure.
Oh, clearly. One final question before we wind down, and this one is on the global markets yet again, because every time you see the global sugar prices gain up, we see the stocks of sugar industry in the Indian markets also gain up, even if it's not so much in sense of selling sugar, but the stock way is clearly something that it reacts to. So we do understand that the prices ran up too much too soon, and we've seen 14% of gains come in for the raw sugar prices in last 1 month itself. What is your sense on how much speculative trading or froth is into that? And also with the various numbers now floating on what the international sugar balance could be from a big deficit to a small one, how are you looking at those numbers?
No, in fact, the numbers are in any case becoming from surplus to a deficit scenario. And sugar has been rather very truant this year. Initially, we were thinking in terms of sugar surplus this year, and now we are talking in terms of a deficit. And in fact, the funds are really going long. In fact, I was just going through the report. The funds are long, almost something like 218,000 lots, which translates to about close to about 11 million tons. And there's no reason why the funds will not double up their bets if the past is anything to go by. And so we can't be too sure of markets coming off or cooling off. Because India is out of the picture, Thailand is practically over and done with, Europe is struggling, and Brazil is not helping others in terms of their problems because they've had rains and now a logistical nightmare. So sugar prices can still move up.
All right. Well, yes, some correction that we saw in the 1st of May by down nearly 5%, but those could be buying levels coming in yet again for the international markets there. Ms. Chaturvedi, do stay on with us. With that, it's time for a short break, but don't go anywhere because the discussion moves on to edible oils when we return.